You think liberal indoctrination is bad on college campuses? Imagine what it's like for some conservatives a part of Greek life on college campuses. At my university, I was heavily hazed and bullied by a few girls in my sorority because of my Zionist and conservative beliefs. But I'm not the only student that this has happened to. There are students across the country a part of fraternities and sororities that are unfortunately being discriminated against because of their beliefs, and it's not okay. Not all Greek life is bad, not all Greek life treats people like this, and I want to make that very clear. But I do also want to raise light to this issue that isn't really touched based upon, and I want to show that, free speech applies on both sides of the political spectrum, and part of free speech is hearing opinions that you don't want to hear. So make sure you tune in to The Conservative Take at 8 p.m. Mountain Standard Time and 10 p.m. Eastern Time, where we will be discussing this. Thank you. Bye.
And tonight, obviously, we're going to have Kyra Bowlby back. We're going to bring her on here in a second here. If you have any comments that you want to put, do that in the comments section there as well. I have some private notes there. If you're actually looking at this from StreamYard, you can see some links, all the things that we're going to be talking about tonight. But this is going to be Kyra's show tonight. And we prefaced it with that trailer there to let you know what's going on there. And I want to give you a warm welcome to Miss Kyra Bowlby. Welcome to have her back, because she is awesome.
Hi.
So how are you? Hey.
I'm good. How are you?
Oh man, I'm doing very well. Thank you for asking. So when we did this introduction, or we did this show, we basically did this at the last minute. I said, hey, you wanna come on and do a show Friday? And you're like, sure. And your topic for this was immediate. There was no discussion. And so you kind of want to just talk to us about at your leisure, what's been going on with you, and how are you doing now physically and emotionally with this?
Sure. So I joined a sorority back in August of 2020, and it was during the height of the pandemic, especially in New Mexico. And I really wanted to try and get out there and meet new people and make new friends. And so my mom and my aunt were part of a sorority. They were part of the same sorority that I was actually a part of, which made this experience even more depressing and painful for me, because I was a legacy, which is where your mother is in the same sorority that you were. And
I think we may have lost her there. What she was saying was about a legacy. What that basically means is, if your parents go to a university, typically the same university, and they join that fraternity or sorority, then it's the person who comes after them is considered the legacy. For instance, I don't want to call anyone out, but my dad was a certain fraternity. And when I went to college where I was at, my university didn't have it because they were kicked off the yard because they had some violations. And so Kyra will come back. We'll get her back on. And so for my story, essentially, is at a HBCU campus, the situation there is a little different. And I didn't want to talk about that per se, only if we had time to talk about it. But since Kyra's gone, we'll get her back. Is that with that university setting, is that it's always a difference between the people who are Greek lettered or those who are not. And for Black university, the point of Black universities when they first came up, many of them were land-based or land grant. We have her back. I'll cover this in a second. We'll bring her back. Hey, welcome back.
Sorry, my internet totally just went out. Anyway, so I wanted to join a sorority. And so in August of 2020, they were basically having formal recruitment. And I was like, okay, I'll do this. I'll sign up. So I did. And I literally went through my social media accounts and deleted anything remotely political. At this time, I was working for an outlet. I was working for Campus Reform at the time, where we cover news on free speech violations on college campuses. And we talk about liberal indoctrination on college campuses, but I no longer respectfully work for that outlet anymore. So I was really worried that they would find an article from me on there. And I guess I didn't have anything on my social media that they could have found. But when on bid day, which is like the day where you find out what sorority you get into after the whole formal recruitment process, a girl in the Zoom room, she basically actually went, she told me they couldn't find anything about me on social media. So they actually went back into my high school yearbook to find information about me. So that was really weird. And I was like, oh, okay, this is kind of weird. I didn't really say anything about it. I was just like a little freaked out. I was like, wait, what? Like, they really honestly go way back into your social media account to like find what you're posting. And I wasn't posting anything. Like, I did a deep clean about political stuff because during recruitment, you're not supposed to mention political stuff. But it was weird because during recruitment, like all of the girls knew from each sorority that I recruited for. I told every single girl that I wanted to go into politics, that I wanted to go to law school someday and study constitutional law. And then I literally told them, I was like, I want to go into politics. I want to run for office. This is something I want to do. They knew that I was a political science major, and like they specifically knew that I wanted to go into politics. And then a few weeks after I joined the sorority and became a pledge, which is like before you get initiated, I woke up on my phone to a text message from this random number from one of the girls, and she worked at the disciplinary committee. And she texted me saying that she and the sorority president wanted to meet me. They wanted to meet with me about something. I thought this was about changing study buddies because my study buddy was super, super liberal, and she would always talk about Trump when we were together. And I've had one conversation with her, and every time I met her, she would always say something about Trump. So I didn't feel comfortable like studying with her. And so I wanted to switch study buddies so I could like actually, if I'm going to the library with someone and studying, I don't want the entire thing to be literally about politics. I wanted it to be about other things as well. And literally, like, I thought that was what the meeting was about. So I asked them specifically, I was like, am I in trouble? Like, it was such a random meeting thing. And they messaged me, and so the girl messaged me back, and she's like, oh, like, no worries. Like, you're not in trouble. We just need to talk to you. And I was like, okay. So I called my parents on the phone, like, kind of worrying a little bit. And I went into the meeting, and I was like really nervous. So yeah.
So they went back to your high school yearbook days. That sounds like almost like Kavanaugh almost. They couldn't find anything on the guy. They go back to his grade school where he dropped an eraser on the ground, didn't turn it back into the teacher when he was 8. That's ridiculous.
Yeah,
number one. Obviously they're looking for something. So, I have an example that I can bring up if we have time of another person that went to the same thing with you with a post that she did at Kansas University with Candace on. She retweeted it and had the same kind of situation. But I want to stick to kind of unpack what you're going with here. And by the way, AJ is on here, your buddy. He said hello.
Hi, AJ.
Yeah, he's back here. So I want to make sure I give him some love. He's very, I think we were actually friends on Facebook. I actually friended him before. I guess I just did it, whatever. I guess we had to share the same kind of circles. But so anyway, so let's just go back a little bit. You told people that you aspire things in life. You want to be a lawyer. You're a political science major, which to me, if you're political science, obviously, that's like saying if I'm computer science, I'm going to have stuff about computers programs I've done in the past. So you went ahead and had the foreknowledge and really the common courtesy, because you knew the policies for the fraternity, the sorority, was to not to have political stuff. So you cleaned your stuff up, but they found out something. How did they find out exactly that you were even conservative? I missed that part.
So that kind of goes back into the meeting. So I got the text message from the girl. So I went into the meeting thinking I wasn't in trouble, and they tricked me and told me, they were like, a girl, I guess, reported to them and said that, like, according to a few of the girls in the chapter, they felt like they were in emotional and physical danger because of my beliefs. They found stuff that I tweeted on Twitter. They were literally reading and dissecting my tweets one by one. They were reading my tweets out loud. they found a tweet that I posted about the Kavanaugh's confirmation hearing, which was in 2018. This was in 2020. So like Kavanaugh's on the Supreme Court, and I'm sorry to say, but if you're still upset about him being confirmed, get a life. But they were reading my tweets out one by one, and the president of the standards committee, which is the disciplinary committee in a sorority, she told me specifically, she said, "This tweet made my stomach hurt. It's like you support rape and sexual assault." And I specifically supported Kavanaugh, one, because anyone who knows me knows that I want to go into law school. I want to study constitutional law. The Constitution is my biggest passion, and I have a lot of respect for conservatives that want to go into law, because that's not an easy thing to go into. And they were literally targeting me, and she literally said, she's like, "It's like you support rape and sexual assault. This tweet made my stomach hurt." And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, why in the world would you ever make that political? Like, if Kavanaugh really was someone who sexually assaulted another person, I would never support him at all. So they were making such a big deal out of it. They found a tweet that I posted from Charlie Kirk, so I retweeted something from Charlie. I no longer have Twitter anymore because people kept stalking my Twitter and finding something that, and then they took everything out of context. So I finally deleted my Twitter because it's literally a cesspool. And so leftists at my university stalked me repeatedly on Twitter and found stuff about me. And they were literally reading my stuff out loud. So they found a tweet from Charlie that I can't remember, but I retweeted. But they found a tweet from Charlie, and they basically called him a white supremacist. And then they went after Candace Owens and said that I supported racism and stuff. And they were literally just like reading my tweets out one by one, dissecting them in front of me. And then they had the audacity to literally tell me, they're like, "Oh, like, we're not censoring you. You just need to be more careful with what you post." But the same thing is that other girls in the sorority were literally a part of college Democrats, and they were posting about it every day on their Instagram stories. They were posting about it on their Snapchat stories. And then they had the audacity to target me. Obviously, they don't understand like the true definition of what censorship is. So after this meeting, I literally sat in my dorm room and cried. Like, I've never felt that humiliated, that alone, and that embarrassed in my entire life. I've never felt that depressed, because these were girls who literally took an oath to try and make me feel welcome and to try and stand up for me and to like make sure that I felt welcome and safe. And at that time I didn't feel safe. And I called my parents crying on the phone, and I was freaking out. I was like, I'm going to get kicked out of this sorority. So I also I called a girl in my former sorority, and I talked to her a little bit about what happened, and she ended up becoming my big sister. So she ended up talking to the sorority president about the stuff that happened, and the sorority president made it seem like that meeting didn't even happen at all. Like, she was literally acting like it didn't happen. And I remember my friend texted me and said, "Okay, I talked to her, like, don't worry about the stuff that's going to happen. You're not going to get kicked out." At this point, I was literally being put on the disciplinary committee because I had a different opinion than other girls in my chapter. And my big sister in the sorority was a conservative, but she didn't even want to stand up for me. Like, other girls in the chapter didn't want to stand up for me. I mean, of course, like, I'm not saying all these girls are mean, evil monsters. Some of them really honestly tried their best to look out for me and stand up for me. And they were there for me when stuff was happening, because other things progressed and there were more situations that I had before leading to me dropping out. But they couldn't stand up for me, and I didn't want to be, I don't know, I didn't feel safe, and she didn't stand up for me. So it was just like a really weird situation. And there were other situations that progressed to me leaving, but that meeting was probably one of the most humiliating and embarrassing things I've ever had to go through in my college career.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. And let me just kind of back up and let the audience know, kind of going into this, this is the first time you've spoken about this in 10 months, at least definitely first time publicly. So you were a little apprehensive going into this, talking about this?
Yeah, well, some of the girls from my former sorority stalk me and like still try to follow me on Instagram. For those of you that don't know, my Instagram accounts are private because after I left the sorority, which I can go into the other situations that happened that led to me dropping out if you want, but basically after I finally dropped the sorority, one of the girl, a part of the disciplinary committee, had the audacity to literally stalk me on Instagram and watch my Instagram stories. And I woke up one morning to her viewing my Instagram stories. And that's why.
Person?
Yeah.
Okay.
And so she was watching my Instagram stories, and that led to me making both of my accounts private because repeatedly, I mean, about 2 months ago, a girl from my former sorority tried to follow me on Instagram, sent me a follow request, which like I'm not going to accept. Sorry. So yeah, there were other situations that progressed to me leaving, but they still kind of stalk me and see what I'm posting. And so I was afraid to like speak out for a really long time because I didn't want people to think I was acting like a victim. I didn't want people thinking that I was posting this for clout. I didn't want people, I didn't want to seem like or come off as a victim. So I kind of just like tried to move past it and move on. But yeah, there were other situations that led to me dropping out as well. And I was hazed by these girls, which hazing is basically where it's like forced activities. It's not, a lot of people see hazing as like, oh, like people lock you in a closet and they play this song over and over again. It's literally not just that. Like it's isolation, it's humiliation. And that's exactly what a few of those girls did. A lot. And yeah, so.
Let me ask you this question to give, and I certainly don't want to add any burden on you. I'm not going to be disparaging on any of these young ladies that did this to you. They know who they are, so I won't do that. But I will play devil's advocate to a point, just to kind of say, do you think that maybe they were? Now I know the answer to this, by the way, but do you think that they were maybe hazing you on this conservative thing simply to haze you, or were they really serious about this? That they really were just negative towards conservatives, or both?
I think they were just negative towards conservatives. I mean, the president at the time was pretty easily manipulated. And so she was easily manipulated by some of the girls in the chapter because of other events that happened that made me leave the sorority. I honestly think it was because they didn't want an outspoken conservative in there, which if that was the case, like they shouldn't have given me a bid in the first place because they knew in recruitment that I wanted to run for office and I wanted to go to law school. So like on that front, that's kind of on them if that's what they wanted to do. But I do think it came from a manipulative place, and I think it came from a place of hating conservative ideas.
Yeah, I think the thing that really gets me is the fact that they, like you said, they manipulate you and they lie. I had to say, I mean, they lied to you. All right, that's just the fact of the matter. Sounds like from your story, they lied to you. They told you this meeting was going to be one thing, and they turned it into the Inquisition, right? Interrogation session over the white lights, drilling you, and then that's a form of well, I'm not gonna go there, but to me, that's to me, once you go there, then people who will do that, surely they're going to do stuff on you in terms of stalking you on Twitter. Of course, they're going to go through your high school yearbook. Of course, they're going to do whatever because they've already initiated something at the baseline level of dishonesty, right? And so let me ask you this question. And I was explaining this before to the people after the internet went out. I was saying, I guess I'm being a little transparent here myself. My dad was part of a fraternity. And when I went to college, I was considering joining that fraternity too. But when I was a freshman that year, they were kicked off the yard for hazing. And they weren't, so I didn't get a chance to join as a freshman. So by the time they came back on, I was a junior, and I kind of already gotten out of it. I was part of another organization, which is an Africans level fraternity. It wasn't Greek level. Oh, she's gone. So hopefully she'll come back. But anyway, this is fine. So in my case, I went through another process, but I can see where Kyra was upset on the level of being manipulated and lied to. But the other side of it is the inability to actually be part of her mother's legacy. That could be a powerful thing too. So you're talking about a double whammy here. And, this is still fresh. This is still fresh from her. This is only 10 months ago. Or, I'm sorry, this was during the Kavanaugh hearings. I guess that was back in 2000. What was that? I guess that was Trump was elected in 16. So I guess around 17. And so when we get her back, I'm going to bring something up here on the screen here that I have prepared of a person that kind of went through the same thing. And this is in the University of Kansas. This person here, her name is Michelle Ryan. This lady here, I'm sorry, her name is Catherine Laura. She was put on probation on her university at, I guess this is Kansas University of Kansas. And what she did was she actually retweeted something by Candace Owens. And by the way, I have a picture of Candace Owens here with Kyra. They met, I saw this picture last week, I think. They met before, but Candace Owens posted something on her Twitter account, and this lady here, who's part of a sorority at Kansas University, she basically retweeted it. And the part of what it was, or what was about that Black Lives Matter is a racist organization. And what's interesting when Kyra told her story is that, in fact, they actually, let me see if I can do this here. Maybe this will help better. All right, well, you can't see me, but anyway, this particular for a sorority, I think it's Kappa Alpha Theta. They did the same thing to her. They put her to a member development committee, and they went through all these processes. And I actually had a clip from the news article from the news feed, and it was a big deal. And I'm like, when you actually saw the clip or the tweet that that Candace did, it was telling the truth. And yet, because I guess Catherine's white, you can't say anything negative about Black Lives Matter. And so it says here that they're saying that it was deemed as argumentative, and they were said to somehow disregard others' opinions. She was ordered to take a social media holiday for a week to focus on personal reflection and cleanse. She was then had to have a dialogue with organization's chief operating officer to edify her with a broader education of America today. So we have Kyra back. I'm gonna bring her back on, but that was the situation here. And Kyra, I don't know if you heard that, what I said there, but I was basically showing an example of a person in Kansas. Her name is Catherine, who basically did the same thing, who basically retweeted something from Candace Owens because she said that Black Lives Matter. By the way, Candace Owens is black, if you don't know. A black person said Black Lives Matter is racist, and this white person retweeted, and that's a big problem. And they went through the same sort of thing you just mentioned. Oh, so you're muted. Sorry.
Yeah, sorry. My Wi-Fi keeps.
That's fine.
Sorry,
That's
my
fine.
Wi-Fi keeps totally cutting out.
It's funny.
My bad. I had to move location.
No, this is live.
Yeah.
So this stuff happens. So anyway, did you catch what I just said there about this person? It's very similar to you. I mean, I'll bring it up on the screen real quickly. It's the bottom here. It says something about member development committee. And I looked at the document there, and it was really strange. It was like they told her to do a social media cleanse for a week, and I watched the actual news feed, and it's like this can't be. This has to be a parody. This has to be the Babylon Bee. I can't believe that we live in a society where people are this ignorant and don't have any ability to think critically. And also, Kyra, people don't have the ability to cope. I'm sorry, you still muted.
Yeah.
So what do you think about the fact that people have
What? Sorry, what was your question?
I think people have a hard ability to to cope. So when it comes down to new information, the fight or flight, it's almost like on hyperdrive. And it's like there's no ability to just let it go or think about it, but it's either I'm going to fight you or I'm going to run away from you. And I think that has a lot to do with it too, because Kavanaugh was very, very divisive. I mean, but people didn't even consider he could be innocent. You know, the whole believe all women. So I don't know. To me, it's just really, really sad society right now, our lack of social skills and intellectual skills.
Yeah, I think it's I think it's a lack of communication and social skills, but I also think, genuinely speaking, these students, these college students, are literally being taught to be professional narcissists, literally, and like to whine and complain. And they're taught, I mean, professors teach liberals, like these liberal students in their classes, that any idea that goes against their point of view is an existential threat to their well-being, even. And I mean, conservatives, we believe that liberals are misguided. Liberals think that we're genuinely bad, awful, evil monsters. And professors are actually talking about this in class specifically. I mean, I had a professor say that Trump was authoritarian, or that conservatives are authoritarian or totalitarian even. When in reality, we literally just want limited government and free fiscal responsibility. So people are literally teaching these students in classes to believe that the Constitution is exclusionary, or they're teaching people that anything that goes against your worldview and how you see the world around you, that's basically seen as a existential threat to your well-being, physically and emotionally. And, you know, conservative ideas, according to what people are being taught in these schools, are genuinely dangerous and bring up these grave emotional or physically scary things. So it's honestly what is being taught in these schools. And some college kids, unfortunately, don't want to look at both sides, and they don't want to, you know, do their research outside of what they're learning from class. So I understand it to a T, but a lot of the time, you know, college is teaching young people to not have these to not have critical thinking skills. They're only showing them one point of view. They're giving assignments to these liberal students from one point of view, or you're watching CNN in class, or MSNBC, or BBC. So it's honestly just how these students are being taught, and a lot of them are just too lazy to look outside of the headlines from the mainstream media. So I totally agree with you.
Yeah, that's something that I haven't really delved into deeply. I know you're reading a book on Jordan Peterson, and I've listened to a couple of his lectures, one on the Communist Manifesto, which wasn't really talking about this per se, but another one he was talking with a intellectual scholar who was an atheist, a leftist, but center left. And he was saying, he's an old school dude. He was even saying what you were saying. It's like, look, you know, I'm a leftist, and we don't agree. Talking to Jordan Peterson, we don't agree on hardly anything. Well, you know, culturally and and whatever. But when it comes to real life issues, the left is going out of control. And this guy is saying this, and it's like, and I know, I wish I could delve more into that and kind of get that. But to me, it's still hard to even get there, because they can't. Even if you had that position, you still really can't back it up with anything that's actually in front of you. It's fine to have these ideas and whatever, but they can't even back it up. And so I guess to your point, if they're too lazy to even go into it, then they never will. And if they have MSNBC and BBC and CNN, and if they're telling them one thing and the professors are actively telling them one thing, then why would they? So it's a big problem. So for you,
yeah.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. Sorry.
I was just going to follow up with what you were saying. I was just kind of recap where we are with what you said, and try and get a little bit closer to where we can go with this. I mean, so when you said drop out, you meant drop out of the sorority, correct? Not out of college, right?
Yeah, there were other situations that made me drop out. Like some of the treatment that I was receiving from my former sisters made me drop out. So there were a few other situations that literally made me drop out of the sorority. If you want, I can talk about it, but it's up to you. It's your show.
Oh, no. In fact, you know what? I told you before this thing started that I had enough material to kind of cover the backfill anything that you didn't want to talk about, because I don't want you to feel pressured to fill an hour. Because normally we break up into 3 segments, right? And so I had 2 other segments loosely put together that in case something happened, I can kind of fill in. And so with that, I would say it's your show. I can actually get off the thing here, remove myself, and give you the full screen. You can just go for it if you feel comfortable. But I'm just here to support you and get your story out there and to raise awareness, like you were saying, because I would never have chosen this topic, but I think it's really, really important because there are millions of kids in universities. I'll say one thing though, Kyra, real quickly here, and this is a little bit showing my old school here. Spike Lee was his director. He made a movie out in, I think, 1989, I believe. It's called School Days, okay? School Days was a film about university campuses, highly focused on fraternities and sororities from an HBCU perspective. And so that, long story short, in that particular movie, he brought out all the dirty laundry in the Black community, especially on Black campuses, how Black campuses divide and segregate the people who are on the yard, people who are actually not enlisted, but what do you call it? The frats and sororities, whatever, and those who are not. And so HBCUs were built so that Blacks could have a place to come and learn, right? They were mainly and largely created by abolitionists, like Howard University. He was a general at Gettysburg. He was an abolitionist, created Howard University, and all these land-grant institutions came together by abolitionists, white abolitionists, to give Black people a place to learn. But when you have a campus with Black people learning, but then you have them dividing themselves by sorority and by fraternity, it became a problem. And I saw that a lot. And he brought out like other things too about skin color, whatever. And I thought that was really, 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 really important. And my whole point of saying all this is that I would never have thought about doing this as a topic because it's removed from my life right now. I'm not in school, and my kids are in school, but they're doing this distant learning. So for them, it's not quite a big deal either. And so, we lost her again, but I'll just keep going here. Hey Mo, how you doing? Good to see you on here. Mo's a good dude. He's a good dude. You should go follow this guy, Mo Reese-Delk. He's a good dude. Let me see here. Physically, was my hard part in the beginning of bullying. Past part. Yeah. So, and that's part of the thing, right? So when you go on campus, right? So I'll explain this a little bit. I'm not enlisted, or I never walked, which means in pledge. But essentially, what you do is you get recruited, and then I can speak on Black university sororities and fraternities. Essentially, what you do is you pledge, and then you go on, and then they do stuff to you, make you worth certain things, and then there's a lot of hazing, right? A lot of hazing is physical too, where they actually do physical abuse to you, and then at some point in time you have what you call death march, where you go across campus and you do these different things. You learn the stuff about the history of your campus, of your sorority, of your fraternity, and then you come offline and you become a member of the fraternity. And so what happens is when you get that kind of they call brotherhood or sisterhood, all of a sudden now you're removed from the campus that you're part of, and now you're no longer part of that Black HBCU. You're your own clique, more or less, and it lasts a long time outside of college. And so, I don't know, what more to say other than the fact that I think it's really important for people who are conservatives, if you are wanting to get into a fraternity or a sorority, that I would first say to make sure that the university you go to has a conservative base in terms of its curriculum, in terms of its staff, even in terms of its history, in terms of even the way they look at the world. And so that will go a long way because most universities don't let sororities and Greek lettered organizations onto their campus unless they fit certain criteria. And so that would do most of the work for you. And then once you get on there and do that, then you should be fine. But if you're on another campus or another university and you want to be part of another fraternity or sorority that may not be one that's as traditionally conservative or God-fearing, I would say, then you have to be really careful in terms of how you do what you do going into it. Kyra tried her best to scrub all of her social media presence. She tried her best to do that. But because she let people know she wanted to be political science and she wanted to be a lawyer and she had these goals and aspirations, and then they got the idea that she was a conservative. And then because of that, because of how people were trained, like we mentioned before, they decided to go and back into her high school yearbook and find stuff that she put there. So what I'm going to do while she's still out there, I'm going to play this clip again that she did before, and it basically tells you what she wanted to do here tonight. So I want to let those people who haven't seen that, because we played it at the very, very beginning of the stream. So I'll play it one more time. It's about a minute long. And this is Kyra Bowlby basically giving the promo for this particular live stream.
You think liberal indoctrination is bad on college campuses? Imagine what it's like for some conservatives a part of Greek life on college campuses. At my university, I was heavily hazed and bullied by a few girls in my sorority because of my Zionist and conservative beliefs. But I'm not the only student that this has happened to. There are students across the country a part of fraternities and sororities that are unfortunately being discriminated against because of their beliefs, and it's not okay. Not all Greek life is bad, not all Greek life treats people like this, and I want to make that very clear. But I do also want to raise light to this issue that isn't really touched based upon. And I want to show that, free speech applies on both sides of the political spectrum. And part of free speech is hearing opinions that you don't want to hear. So make sure you tune in to The Conservative Take at 8 p.m. Mountain Standard Time and 10 p.m. Eastern Time.
So there she is. We have her back, by the way. I kind of want to go over some things there in that video clip too, because she mentioned some things there that I hadn't thought about. But let's bring her back on here. And so welcome back, Kyra. Basically, I was just going through the experience of, a Black university, how it's a little different, but it doesn't really relate to your story so much. But I have a question in case you hadn't finished your thought. If you had finished your thought, let me ask you this. If you haven't, you can kind of say what you want to say first, and then you can answer my question if you can remember it. What do you think in terms of sororities and fraternities or Greek letter organizations, or do you think in terms of them being on the yard or being on campus, are they set apart from the other students, or are they more integrated with them? Because I know in Black universities, it's very much separated. You don't talk to, you're not friends with anyone who's in an organization that's not part of yours, or who's not part of the overall Greek letter Panhellenic Council groups.
So I'm going to be really careful when I answer this question, because my mom was in a sorority and so was my aunt, and they were in the same exact sorority that I was in before I dropped. And so I really think it changes over time. Now Greek life has transformed into this not great thing. And I'm not saying that all Greek life is bad, but in my experience, a lot of the people that I've met from Greek life aren't necessarily the nicest people I've ever met. And so they kind of separate themselves from people off campus. Because back then, when my mom was in a sorority, when you were in a sorority, that was literally, those were literally the girls that you married. They were wife material girls that you would marry. So all the guys would be they're in a sorority. And that's kind of the same thing now. But the thing that I've really noticed specifically is now sorority girls aren't really that, I feel mean saying this, but yeah, I do think they kind of separate themselves from universities, from the students, from the campus life. And they're separated into their own house. So it's I don't know. It really honestly has changed over time, if that makes sense.
Right. And I can't, I gotta be careful too because my parents are both part of it, and they were. And it's funny because it was really weird. Is that, and I'm not gonna name them, but if you're watching this and you know what I'm talking about, there are certain fraternities and sororities that basically match, right? So there's one fraternity here that is the matching sorority for the matching fraternity, and you're expected to either date someone from the opposite fraternity. And because I'm not sure exactly why that is, but and my parents fit that bill to a T, and so I was just we always sort of resented that on campus, because like I said, I would have probably joined my dad's fraternity early on, but when they weren't on campus, I decided to. Well, I didn't have a choice. I joined an African fraternity, and it was more or less undercover or whatever. It wasn't really out in the face because we actually had women too, so it was really a society. We had women and we had guys, and it was an academic organization, but it was treated like a Greek letter organization. But it was kind of strange. I'll tell you off camera about that one. But and so once I was part of that, there was no need for me to go back onto it. And so my point of saying all that is that the students were pretty much at odds. If you were not part of the football team or a sports team or the band, especially the band, oh my gosh, the band's that's like everything, or the gospel choir, then you were pretty much by yourself on campus. And you had to find your own little clique and make your own way. And it was very divisive. And I kind of resented that, because every year I had a new set of friends because I was never part of any of that. And so, I don't know, is that anything similar to what you've experienced so far?
Well, there's this huge stereotype as a college student now that in order to have a social life in college, you have to join Greek life. And I don't know if I agree with that. And also, with the other situations that I went through before I dropped my sorority, I'm not sure if I would probably go through recruitment again. So I don't know. Not really being in a sorority has made it really difficult, especially since my mom and my aunt had such great experiences in it, and so have many of my other friends in high school who are now a part of Greek life off on different campuses across the country, and they've had good experiences. It's kind of one of those situations where you do feel really embarrassed, especially with the other situations that I went through as well that made me drop. But yeah, I definitely, to answer your question, yes, I do. Yeah.
Okay, well, let me hone this back in because I kind of want to go up on there because a lot of people don't know about the whole campus thing, the Greek thing. I kind of understand it a little bit, and you obviously do, and people watching it may not. So I kind of wanted to broaden it out to kind of see what people can see what that lifestyle is all about. Now let's kind of bring it back into you in the focus because this was painful for you, and so what steps do you think? Well, that's kind of maybe a hard question to answer, but in terms of healing, where are you at now in terms of healing? And has anyone in the university reached out to you, apologized? Or do you think if you talk to anyone who said maybe you should do this as next steps or just to drop it? Or what do you think to get your healing and to get some resolution and I guess some closure to this? Because I know this much more and I'm gonna let you say that because you said there's more. Do you think that that's something that you're looking to do, or is that something that that someone's recommended you to do as well?
So to answer your question, I feel like I have never been happier since leaving my sorority, and no disrespect to the girls at all. The girls who treated me poorly, to the other situations that I will talk about after I answer your question. The healing process was hard. From December 2020 to now, I'm going to be honest, I've never felt more alone, more depressed, more humiliated in my life from what I experienced after, before dropping. But I think healing wise, I've been a lot happier and I've learned that you can't be dependent on other people for your happiness, and you have to have people in your life that genuinely want the best for you. I'm reading Jordan Peterson's book right now, and the rule that really stuck out to me was Rule 3 in 12 Rules of Life, which is befriend people who want what's best for you. And so that really helped me heal, and it's helped me kind of remove people from my life who I feel like aren't producing good qualities of that. But to kind of go into the other situations that like genuinely made me leave, there was a girl, and I mentioned this in our anti-Semitism stream where we discussed anti-Semitism. There was basically a girl in the house, and she went around and called me anti-Semitic slurs. She called me an anti-Semitic slur that Hitler actually used during the Holocaust. This girl was a leftist, and I kind of wanted to put a stop to it. And so I wanted to kind of put politics aside and try and be friends with her. So I call her up one night, and I'm telling her, I'm like, hey, like, I care about you. You know, we're sisters now. At that time, we were about to be initiated, but I'll get more into that later. And so, you know, we were talking on the phone, and I said, hey, like, I care about you. I want to be friends. I want to be your sister. I mean, we can disagree on politics and still be friends, right? And then her parents got on the phone call, and they started threatening me. And they were saying things like, her parents got into the call and they were like, I don't know if you're Jewish, but you should have died during the Holocaust. Like, your family members should have been killed. One of them, I can't remember if it was the mother or father, but they basically said, they were like, oh, well, I hope someone shoots you in the head with your own gun, because I was a gun owner. I had my own gun. My dad bought a gun to protect us in case we have a home invasion. They were basically saying things like they were talking about Zionists and how it's justifiable to attack Zionists. When I was in the sorority and during that meeting, I was talking about they went after me and they talked to me about a situation that I had on campus where I corrected a professor about Israel. And I told her, I was like, Israel is the only true democracy in the Middle East, and Hamas and Hezbollah are genocidal terrorist organizations. And during her lecture, she was totally going off on Israel because Trump was very supportive of Israel. So Orange Man bad, I guess Israel's bad too, according to them. So they were basically justifying, they were saying things like Zionists should be beat up, things like that. And these were grown adults who I found out were Palestinian activists, wow, very prominent in the Albuquerque community in New Mexico. And I mean, after that phone call, I've never felt more alone in my life. Like, I was literally just trying to take the high road, and she attacked me and wished death upon me and my family. And then, so the other situation that happened is election night came along, and a sister of mine was messaging me on Snapchat, and she was asking me about the election because everyone in the chapter knew that I was a political science intro. She asked.
We're having some problems here. That's okay. So when we get her back, so just to recap here, so it sounds like she had a friend. They were pretty close friends, and if she's still there, okay. Get back.
So, we were privately messaging on Snapchat. So all of a sudden, she asked me. She was like, "Who'd you vote for? Did you vote? Who did you vote for in the election?" And I, of course, did not feel comfortable saying who I voted for. And you know, before the election, a girl actually posted something from the account name going by the name of "We effing hate Donald Trump," about how if you support Trump, then you're supporting people being murdered. You're supporting like people being killed or whatever. Like, what she posted was crazy, okay? And so she got mad at me. This sister got mad at me because I didn't feel comfortable telling her who I voted for. And, you know, everything, you know, she started saying things like, I hope something bad happens to your family, like you're probably a Republican, all this stuff. So after that, she spent the entire day, the next day, crying, feeling really bad about how she treated me. And I posted something on Snapchat. I posted a video of me saying, like, explaining what happened, because a girl that I knew that was a high school friend, went through the same thing basically. I mean, she was a conservative in a sorority, and the same thing happened to her, where she voted for Trump and people got mad at her because she didn't feel comfortable telling people who she voted for. So I thought I would post a video on Snapchat saying, hey, like, let's be more respectful to each other. Like, let's be respectful regardless of the election results. And I told them, I'm like, I'm going to be happy either way, regardless of who wins this election. Either way, like the country needs to progress. The country needs to move on, regardless of who's sitting in the Oval Office. So, like I said, this girl spent the entire day crying. And she messaged me and she said, I'm so sorry that this happened. And so after I posted the video of me saying that we need to be respectful of each other, regardless of the election results, the girls in this sorority got super upset about it because I posted about how I posted a little bit about the argument that I had with the sister. But half the people that add me on Snapchat are from previous political conferences that I've met. So these people who see my Snapchats don't even go to my university. And I didn't say the university's name. I didn't say the name of the sorority. And so a bunch of girls got mad. They swiped up on my story and they're like, you're inciting violence. You're inciting racism, xenophobia, all the phobias, all the insults that every conservative gets. They were sending me those messages. And so basically the sorority president ended up seeing the video that I posted. And I wasn't posting this video to like say bad things about the sorority. I was literally just asking people to be respectful, regardless of who won the election. Because, like, respect, in my opinion, is super important. And they thought, so she basically told me that she believed I was saying bad things about the sorority, when in reality, never said the name of the sorority, never said the name of the university. Most of the people, like I said, who add me on Snapchat are not from my university and don't even live in my state. So she got mad and she's like, oh, like, this is giving the chapter a bad name. Like, you're saying stuff about Greek life that's not true. You're making the university look bad. You're making the sorority look bad, when I never said anything about the names of either of the two. So people were saying that I was inciting violence. And then I recently got my big sister in the sorority, which is basically the girl who you look up to and, you know, you go to if something's happening. And she messaged me and said, I think you should delete this because it's going to cause conflict. And it's giving the sorority a bad name. So I was upset because I was taking it like I'm literally getting bullied by a sorority sister for my beliefs. I was bullied separately by a girl, the sorority president. I was getting picked on by the sorority president, not bullied, but picked on by the sorority president, picked on by the president of the disciplinary committee, picked on by two other sisters as well, who were, I think, in my pledge class, and who are the girls you get initiated with. And literally, like, she told me that, like, my big sister was a conservative, and she didn't even stand up for me when this was happening. And stuff was going on in the house. Like, girls were talking about me in the house. People were freaking out about the video. They were focusing more on like the well-being and the reputation of the chapter instead of how I was feeling. And I mean, some of the girls were really sweet about it, and they were really checking on me to make sure that I was okay. So I'm not saying that all the girls in the chapter are evil, mean monsters. Like, that's not what I'm saying at all. I'm mostly just talking about the girls who were not respectful. But it's like, you can't claim you're an organization of empowering other women when it comes to people like me who have a different belief than most of the girls in the chapter. And you're wanting me to be silent, and you're caring more about the well-being and the reputation of the chapter than how I'm feeling. Like, it was weird. So then the other situation that happened was, after this video was released, a girl from the standards committee reached out to me, sent me an email, said that she like formally invited me to a standards meeting. So I went to a few meetings. We were talking about what happened. I didn't end up giving the name of the girl who threatened me on election night because I wanted to be the bigger person. And also, like, her and I apologized to each other. We were all good. I didn't feel like creating more conflict or more drama. So I was like willing to move forward. And so basically they moved my initiation date 2 weeks past my like past what the actual initiation date would have been for my pledge class. And I was the old, yeah. And so they told me, yeah, like they told me, they were like, oh, we're going to extend your pledging period 2 weeks, and then you can decide if you want to do this and go through with this. And
so basically they can gang up on you for 2 weeks.
Well, not necessarily. They wanted me to like think about if I wanted to stay in the sorority and like really decide if this was something I wanted to do. So they wanted to give me that option. So I spent a few weeks like thinking, and I was like, I really want to stay in this. Like I want to be friends with these, like I really wanted to try and make it work. And I literally told myself, I was like, okay, I will put politics aside, and like, because I wanted to be in the sorority. And so after 2 weeks, we had another meeting, and they noticed, like, they told me like tough words, like, oh, like like, we're sorry you're going through this, you know, just like tough words, like, we want you to feel safe. And they decided to extend my initiation date again in the meeting. And
man, forget that, man.
So that happened. And so I'm sitting there. And so all of a sudden, you know, like I had to remove a few of the girls on Snapchat, because specifically after I posted this video on Snapchat, which, by the way, was not doing it to be negative, was not doing it to talk crap about the sorority or the chapter. I was literally doing it to say, hey, like, let's be respectful. And it literally was just totally blown out of proportion. I also, like, they made it seem like I was endorsing Trump or something. Like, they literally said, they're like, oh, well, we don't know who you voted for, and you have a right to vote for whoever you want, blah, 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 blah. And it's like, and then they were telling me, they're like, you should feel safe. You should feel welcome. Like, we're here for you. And consistently, they tried literally censoring me. So I'm really grateful, because a few of the girls reached out to me, and they told me, they're like, you know, like, I'm sorry you're going through this. Like, I'm a conservative too. Like, behind the scenes, they were literally telling me, like, thank you for standing up for what you believe in, because we feel alone in this sorority. And to all the conservatives that are still in Greek life, and you're literally afraid to be around people, to be yourself, things like that. And I also want to mention real quick, after I was censored and after my tweets were regurgitated and dissected, they had a chapter meeting. They were going through how to have civil dialogue with our children. Yeah, they're like, here's how we have civil dialogue. And I'm just like, oh my God. And all these girls, they all call themselves feminists. Like, I'm gonna be honest, like, this was anything but empowering, because they wanted to attack me, and they wanted to continuously extend my pledging period, because they probably saw me as too controversial, and they didn't want me a part of the sorority because they didn't want an outspoken conservative in the sorority, is honestly what I'm thinking. And there were other girls. The thing that embarrassed me the most and that made me the most depressed was there were other conservatives in Greek life and in the sorority who did not stand up for me when this was happening. And it's like, I'm sorry, and then I asked them, I was like, why aren't you standing up for me? Like, why aren't you helping me? They're like, well, I'm conservative too, but like, I don't want conflict. And I understand. You're in a global pandemic. You're in a sorority house with 180 other girls. You don't want conflict. You don't want drama. But at the same time, like, you should stand up for your sisters. Like, you took an oath to protect new members, people that might get initiated. And I never even got initiated because they kept extending my pledging period. So finally, after all these meetings and things like that about civil dialogue and like meeting with them privately in the disciplinary committee, they basically, during the last meeting where they extended my pledging period even longer, they asked me to write an essay about why I wanted to be in the sorority. So I wrote this 3-page paper about why I was leaving. And I was like telling them you were hazing me, stuff like that. Like, they wanted me to write, like, this is why, you know, I want to be in this sorority. I'm not going to say the sorority name for privacy reasons, but So I wrote this paper, and they were expecting me to write, "This is why I want to stay in it." And instead, I literally took it to more of like a law paper kind of thing, where I was like quoting the Constitution. I was, I, I was talking about Kavanaugh. It was like I literally trolled them in this paper because like my mom told me. Yeah, my mom told me when I was writing the paper, she's like, you need to troll them. So then when they open the paper and they see you don't want to be in the sorority anymore, that you got them. So I wrote 3 pages of this paper. And I was like, I am done. I'm not in the sorority anymore. And I literally have the essay pulled up that I can read a few of the paragraphs that I wrote. But
Sure.
yeah.
Just redact it so you won't get in trouble. So that's awesome.
You can say, if you want to talk about something else, you can. I just need to find it real quick.
Yeah. So I'll just say, I'll just do a quick recap for those who just got on here. So essentially, Kyra was a member of a university where she was trying to become part of a sorority. Her mom was part of the sorority. She wanted to become a legacy. It's a big deal because now mom and daughter can have the same letters and same experiences in different generations, boom, boom, boom. But of course, and then she understood that to get into it, they don't want politics. So she did say, well, look, I'm a political science major. And she went ahead and scrubbed all of her social media. And but somehow someone found it. So they were going to go to their high school yearbook and find, I guess, I don't know what they found. And then started dissecting stuff and then started going to other things. And then called into a meeting on a false pretext saying, hey, just come on in. We're gonna have a pizza party, whatever. The pizza party turned into a inquisition, right? And where they basically ran through her tweets and totally humiliated her. And that's sort of where things went from there. And of course, you heard about her friend who, didn't like her, and her mom got on the phone and then cussed her out and then threatened her family. Which, by the way, I think that's probably a violation, a legal violation somewhere. Right? You could be brought up on charges, I think, in some cases. So, is that enough filler for you there? You want me to keep going?
No, you're good. I just found it. Okay. Are you guys ready for the trolling essay? I'll read a few of the paragraphs. Okay. So, here's one of the paragraphs. So basically, I mentioned, I literally pulled from emails they sent me to set up disciplinary action meetings with them. I pulled up, I quoted the Constitution. I quoted their mission statement for the chapter headquarters, which is national, the entire sorority nationally. So basically, they wrote on the website, because every sorority that you join has their own headquarters, their own national thing, their own website. So they posted this on their website, which I also used in my essay, and it said, and when you are sharing on social media sites like Facebook, Twitter, and Pinterest, please remember the content on these sites can and will be looked at by people who won't necessarily see the harm in copying, commenting, or redistributing that information. It's important to be aware of this dynamic and remain proactive about the reputation of our organization and its members. Refrain from using tacky or vulgar language when posting on social media sites on behalf of the chapter, as well as mean-spirited, exclusionary, or otherwise negative hashtags. Posting appropriate content is another way to demonstrate how we wear our letters 24/7, and it's another highly visible way to show that you are sorority name classy. Okay, so basically, after all of this, and after I wrote this essay, I also included all the emails that they sent me to set up these disciplinary meeting stuff when all the drama was going on. So they sent me an email and they specifically said this, and I'll blur out the names. They say, we appreciate you meeting with us. This was after one of the meetings that I had with them when they extended my pledging period. And they said, we appreciate you meeting with us and taking this time to reflect. Name, and I do think we need time to reflect as well about all aspects of the situation. So I want to mention something real quick, because one of the girls in the meeting got really mad at me because this was the same girl who basically said that a tweet that I posted about Kavanaugh back in 2018 made her stomach hurt. And according to her, she was like, you probably support rape and sexual assault. So this is how I responded to her. I said, so you need to think about what happened. What about the sisters that bullied me and threatened to hurt my family members just because I didn't feel comfortable and I felt like my life was going to be put in danger if I shared who I voted for in the 2020 presidential election? That is my right as an American citizen to vote for whoever I please. What about my points of view about the censorship, targeting, bullying, isolation, and hazing? I'm pretty sure that in the First Amendment of the Constitution, nowhere in there does it state that people can pick and choose what speech is okay and not okay. And it doesn't say you are allowed to only admit girls in your chapter that are liberal. And then when a fellow sister or pledge says something you disagree with, nowhere in the First Amendment does it say you are allowed to silence and shut down and try and force girls to remove posts on social media. So these girls can say that I was using vulgar language, like slurs and stuff like that, because they said that during the meeting.
Right.
But nothing that I post, and you can look through my Facebook right now, nothing that I post is vulgar, and I don't use racial slurs. Like, why would I post things like that if I want to run for office someday? So that doesn't make sense. So then I talked about the bylaws from the sorority, and I talked about how they were continuously and arbitrarily extending my initiation date and pledging period. And I said that everyone in the sorority has a right to be treated with dignity, including me. And then I quoted the First Amendment of the Constitution.
Nice.
And I was like, and so I told them, I was like, I believe that women's empowerment does not mean shouting down beliefs that disagree with yours. It's unfortunate to be in a chapter that claims they fight for empowering other women, yet allow its members to post things such as #TheFuture'sFemale, and fails to really promote an environment for all views and voices to be heard. And then, so I mentioned that, and then finally, I posted the mission statement again, and I closed off this saying, let's be honest, you are trying to continually extend my pledging period and my initiation period because it's intentional. You see me as too controversial. And honestly, if you don't want to get to know me or be around me because of the way I think, that just shows you don't have a lot of strength in your opinions or viewpoints, and you think all women should just walk around like clones. But you don't know me at all. If it were me, I would never do this to another person, and especially a sister, because it's shameful. When people continually try to silence their opposition, they are a part of the problem, and they are the reason as to why this country is so divided. My mom, an alum, does not need to pay and have her hard-earned money go to an organization that is hateful and believes in censoring young women. Goodbye and farewell. And then I signed my name. This is a 6-page paper, man. This is 6 pages long, and I totally went on them. And my mom literally told me to write this paper. I didn't want to write it. I was gonna be like, you know what? Screw it. I'm gonna leave.
Right.
And I decided to write it. So
yes, I'm gonna give you the stand. I've never done this before ever. I'm gonna give you a stand-up clapping, like my shirt. So that's a good segue into my next question, which is about your parents, because your mother, obviously, where you were off getting your internet connection back. I was saying, it's a big deal with my phone. It's a big deal with parents, and so what did your mom think about this? And obviously, she's on board with what you did.
well, both of my parents were horrified. They were literally in the room with me when the parents were totally going off on me, and my dad literally almost ran into my bedroom and like started screaming at the two parents, but he decided not to. So both my mom and my dad were horrified that this happened, and they should be. They're my parents. And a lot of people have to understand these Greek organizations, you have to pay monthly dues. Every month, you have to give them money for funding, for housing. And my parents told me, they're like, we're not going to do this if you're just going to be censored all the time. And like I said before, if you have a problem with conservatives joining your organization and you claim to be feminists, are you really a feminist, or are you a bully that only wants one point of view in your organization? That's something that I think should be mentioned. And so my mom told me something a few days ago that really just sticks with me. And it's, just because you have morals doesn't mean, just because I have morals doesn't mean you should bully me because you don't have any. And that's what these girls were doing. And so my parents were both horrified, and they were both mortified that this was happening. And they were like, there's no way you're going to stay in this. Like, my parents would have supported me either way. But I'm going to be honest, it would have been a nightmare to live in that house every day. To be sitting in the house, and I read a lot of books, okay? I'm reading Jordan Peterson right now. And you have to have a roommate in the house. So if I was sitting in my room reading my Jordan Peterson book, I can't even imagine what would have happened. Like, I would have been a chopping block. So, yeah, I mean, they were mortified and horrified. And as parents, they should be. It's a parent's obligation to make sure that their child is safe and to make sure that their child is happy. And I honestly just want to commend my parents and thank them for everything that they did when I was going through this, because I don't know how I would have gotten through it if I didn't have my parents. Because it's hard enough being a conservative on a college campus, but being attacked from people who took an oath and initiation to protect you and to make you feel welcome as a pledge is disgusting. And it's also disgusting that they had the audacity to treat me like that when my mother and my aunt were in this same organization.
Exactly. Legacy is supposed to be like a shoe-in.
Yeah.
It's supposed to be shoe-in. That's why you do it. So, you know, let's go, oh, you don't mess with him or her because she's a legacy or he's a legacy. Whatever, man. So I want to bring up a couple of things here because one thing you mentioned, well, I want to talk about your video that you did. By the way, subscribe to her channel. We're going to put the links up here in a second here for her YouTube channel and so forth. But you mentioned you had 2 parts and it's about Israel and you did a really good job explaining it. But the part there where you basically said, I can't say, you can probably say it, that just because you mean you're pro-Israel doesn't mean you're anti-Palestinian. Just because you're pro-Palestinian, that doesn't mean you're anti-Israel right to exist. I thought that was a really, really good statement. And to me, that's everything that anyone on the other side should need to know, is that we're talking about human beings. We are all about the human beings of the Palestinians and the Israelis because of human beings, but it's other things that we're not fans of, right? It's auxiliary to all of that. And I think, and that's what that big blow up happened with you. But to me, it's even deeper than that because they got mad about other things too. But so I mean, for the people who are listening, who may be trolling or whatever, go check out her other videos because I think I would challenge you to find anything that Kyra said that's really, really a bad thing. And I wouldn't have her on this program if I thought that she wasn't, if she was that kind of person. In fact, I'm even considering offering you a show on this network without me being on it. If you want to do that, you know, that's your own. Whatever.
Hell yeah! I will do that.
Yeah, just like give me kicked off. But I mean, I think you have your own platform, your own audience, and so forth. And so, you know, as you build your channel, whatever, I think that's something that we can definitely look at. But my point in saying that is that I don't see anything that you've done social media wise, anything that's even remotely close. So, and if this wasn't a family show, if this was like a regular, if I didn't have a strict profanity clause, whatever, in the show, I would have gone off on this thing way long time ago because I think the things that you just told me are abhorrent and criminal in some ways. And if you were my daughter, I know your dad's probably seemed like I would, and it would have been like all that Donkey Kong, man. I've been up in that Joker, like I've been probably in prison.
Yeah, my dad can be intimidating.
Say what?
My dad can be intimidating sometimes, so you don't mess with my dad, okay?
Yeah, we're friends on Facebook.
Yeah, he's this big giant teddy bear. You come after his kids, you'll feel the wrath of Donkey Kong, man. No.
Yeah, dads and the daughters, man. You don't mess with that, man. Dads and the daughters, it's a bond, dude. You do not cross that. You do not cross that. So anyway, well, commend to your parents and your mom, and I'm glad you're able to get through it. And I think that was a really good way to have closure, right? Did you get any feedback from that letter at all, or was it kind of just like ghost and no one mentioned anything about it?
They ghosted me. They didn't even respond. Okay? I sent this letter to nationals too. I sent this to the national headquarters. So in the email, I trolled them even harder. I sent them the email, and then I CC'd someone from the national headquarters. And I was like, I sent them the email and I'm like, I don't remember what I said in the email, but I was like, here you go. and then it was the 6-page essay about how I'm leaving stuff. And yeah, so after all that happened, my mother talked to my aunt when all this was happening, and she got literally I think most of the people in her pledge class stopped funding and sending the money to nationals. So people always ask me, like, how can we stop liberal indoctrination on college campuses? Stop using your wallets and stop funding these organizations that are literally targeting conservatives and not promoting free speech. Like, college should be a place where you can, where we can learn and have critical thinking discussions, but in reality, they're teaching kids, like I said before earlier on in this podcast, that like they're teaching children, they're teaching these young kids, 20-year-olds, any opinion that goes against you is an existential threat to your existence.
Yeah.
So yeah, like, stop funding these universities, stop funding these Greek life organizations that are actively targeting conservatives. And like, this isn't my story that I just shared. It's not just happening to me. It's happening to conservative Greek life members all across the country. So yeah, I mean, my parents were mortified, and I think it's just something that needs to be done. And honestly, like, from reading that 6-page paper, how would they have responded? I don't even know. I mean, I could probably ask you this. Like, I don't know what their reaction was when they read it. They were probably angry and upset, but they don't. This essay that I wrote was sent to them as a big, giant F you, that you can't treat us like this anymore. You can't treat me like crap because I disagree with you politically. And so I wrote them this essay, and I really didn't want to do it, but my parents told me, they're like, do it, troll. You need to troll them. So I sent it in. It was 6 pages. They probably didn't read the entire thing because they got upset and mad or triggered or whatever.
I think they read it.
Yeah.
They may not read it immediately, but they read it maybe a day later. It's just because the curiosity, you have to read it. If the curiosity just prevents you gotta read it.
But yeah, I mean, I still have some of the girls from the sorority who try to follow me on Instagram, who try to stalk me on Facebook. There was like a 2 months ago, this girl sent me a follow request on Instagram, and I'm like, I'm sorry, but like, if you were a part of that organization with me, you're not following me. You don't have a right to know what I'm up to. Yeah. Like, I don't know if this girl was a conservative or if she was just there to troll. Like, I'm watching out for myself now. So, yeah, and then after the girl from the disciplinary committee started stalking my Instagram stories, she doesn't anymore, thankfully, because I'm on private, which, by the way, you guys should follow me on Instagram, because there's a lot of fun content I post on there. But yeah, like, I don't know. Really, honestly, my opinion on all of this is conservatives need to start speaking up more. I still find it disgusting that the conservatives in Greek life at my university did not stick up for me. Oh, thank you.
I want you to answer this question by A-Team when you get a chance, though. I want to, you did mention that, but I'll put it up here real quickly. I'll put it up here again later on, but go ahead, keep talking.
No, you're good. You're good. Yeah, that's all I want to say. Just like, speak up more if you're a conservative. I always have conservatives in my DMs messaging me, and they're like, I'm afraid I'm going to lose my job. I'm afraid of being called names. Okay, grow up. You're going to be called names no matter what.
Right.
Like, stop being silent about what's going on. And it's just like, I don't know. I just think now it's time for the silent majority to become less silent and to speak up. Because it's like, and also, if you're a parent and you have a daughter in college or someone in college or a parent in college, please look at what your child is learning in these college classes. Okay? Look at what your child's learning. Look at what your child's absorbing. And really try and teach them to look at both sides. Because in their classes, on their campus, they're only getting one point of view. One. So stand up for your children. If you're an alumni to a university, stop giving your money to that university unless you go to Hillsdale or Liberty. or unless you go to Texas A&M or something like that. But people need to speak up more, okay? And if you're a parent, you need to speak up for your child more, and you need to fight back against these administrations, because the only way that this liberal indoctrination is going to go away is if we all rise up and start speaking up more. Because liberals think they're the majority, but in reality, like, Biden couldn't even win the election. He had to cheat. So we need to be more of the majority, not the minority. And there's more of us out there than people think, but we need to start speaking up more, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and the way they're pushing the party so far to the left, they really only have like a 30% voice, really. So for you, for A-Team, you kind of hit it there. So would you say that the best thing for his daughter, who's leaning left a little bit, would you say that it's about, what would you say it would be actually? Would it be, what do you think? I mean, that's kind of tough.
I think maybe just like trying to have a conversation with your daughter. What I did when I was really little, when I was younger, like during the 2012 election with Rhino Romney and Obama, I used to watch the presidential election. Like I used to watch the debates. So honestly, try to get your daughter more politically involved. Buy her a Constitution for Christmas. Buy her a Ben Shapiro book. Put, like, literally when she walks into the room, turn on a Ben Shapiro video and have her watch it. Or the best person that I think is really good when it comes to, like, I don't want to say this word because this word kind of annoys me. I hate the word red pill, but like show her more of the conservative point of view, because people who lean more left don't get the more conservative point of view. So maybe like show her Daily Wire videos, or show her Michael Knowles or Ben Shapiro or Matt Walsh. Like honestly, just like kind of expose her to the other side, but like do it respectfully. I mean, if you want to troll and show her Ben Shapiro telling like my favorite speech that he ever did was when the girl was trying to talk to him about like changing your gender, and he's like, okay, well, can you change your age? And she's like, what? Like you can join the Boy Scouts and identify as a girl, and he's like, no, you can't. She's like, why? And he's like, because of the name Boy Scouts. You can show her that video, but like maybe just like expose her to the right more in more of a respectful way, and show her that there are two sides to every argument. Or maybe try to expose her to the news more. Like The Five is a really good show that you can watch. You can also show her Turning Point USA. They have a lot of really good videos. Just like kind of expose her to more of the conservative side as well.
It also depends on what side you're coming at. Some people are fiscally conservative, and he said that her facts don't matter for his daughter. Some people are fiscally conservative, or they're socially conservative, or they may be Keynesian versus supply side, and it really depends on. It kind of flows. And Jordan Peterson's really good at kind of explaining that and saying it's not all. You know what I'm saying? And Jordan Peterson too. How it kind of all flows and kind of intermingles, but so I would find one thing that she actually likes. I think the best way to do it is really like just the whole thing with like economics, because it just makes sense. Or even with like, grades, the grading curve, the bell curve, how that's not fair. It doesn't give anyone the incentive if the person working doing all the hard work and everybody didn't do any work gets a C. So what happens? The A person says, I'm not going to do it. I might as well get a B. And then thing, everyone's getting C's because no one's doing any work. They'll haul it, So things like that may work, but I don't know. Maybe life experiential. Maybe looking at her paycheck. Little things like that can kick in. And if you give me a second, I'll talk about a story about with my daughter. I don't want to say how old she is because I don't want to think about it. To me, she's still perpetually 13, but she's approaching 18 now. And we actually had about 3-hour discussion the other day. 3 hours. And we just talked. And it's like, we covered everything. We covered the Bible, economics, abortion, all these, if could God make a rock big enough they couldn't lift it, that kind of stuff. And so it was a really good time because I can tell she's pretty much ingrained in this society with like left is just everywhere. But even though she's part of her campus Christian ministry program, so she has that outlet. But still, in that little bubble she's in, she's surrounded by a bunch of leftists that are trying to change her and what she wants to be. So she still has these ideas that are very left-leaning, but yet she still has a biblical foundation. But I just worry that that could kind of, commingle and so forth. So I really kind of picked her brain and whatever. And that was a really scary conversation for me, quite frankly, because she was asking me questions that I didn't, I was like, I don't know if I can answer that question for you, but I think that's the kind of thing, discussions we have to have with our kids, especially when they get older. So do you have that kind of discussion with your parents, or you guys pretty much have done that your entire lives, and your brother too, for that matter?
When I was younger, my parents did not want to expose me to politics. Okay, so when I was in my sophomore year of high school, I started getting more into politics, and so I've always had very interesting discussions with my parents at dinner. At dinner, sometimes we will talk about philosophy or we'll talk about Aristotle. There was one time, sometimes I'll talk to my mom and I'll be like, "Hey mom, who's your favorite philosopher?" Because that's a normal conversation to have. And and so I have my favorite philosopher and my mom has her favorite philosopher, and we kind of just talk and talk and talk and talk. I think also most young people, they turn more conservative later on in life. Or if they don't turn more conservative, then you did your best. I don't know. But yeah, those are all these kind of conversations that I had. But when I was really, really young, my parents did not. When I was younger, I didn't even know elections were a thing. My parents hid it kind of well from us because they didn't want us to kind of be exposed to that or worry about that kind of stuff. So yeah, I've always had conversations like that, but it was when I was maybe 12 years old when I started learning more about politics. But yeah, if that answers your question.
Yeah, that's good. In fact, for me, my story is boring, so I don't want to. Actually, know what I'm thinking about doing? I'm saying this for the first time publicly. I'm actually looking at doing an autobiography, a memoir, more or less. And because I got a lot of weird stuff in my life. It's nothing outrageous. I mean, it's just different. It's the journey of a black conservative, I guess. But part of that was I went to Christian high school, and so I got a base of Christian theology for about 7 years. And I had a professor. To me, as a kid, you look at him as a professor. He's a teacher. Mr. Lair. Mr. Lair, if you're out there, God bless you. I love you. You changed my life with this one statement you made. You probably don't remember it. He said, basically, no matter what he said, look, guys, and this is a Christian university, right? Or school. And so you expect people to say, we want you to think this way. We want you to think about, the Bible this, the Bible that, the Bible this. But he said, no, if you're pro-abortion or you're pro-life, whatever, take that position but be able to defend that position. To take an issue and take a stand on an issue, no matter what it is. Find out that position and find out where you stand on an issue and find out why you stand on an issue. And I took that to heart my entire life. So that's why I'm always changing around my positions, not anymore, but getting to where I am now, because I kept looking, well, that doesn't seem right. That seems right. And I'm moving further and further to the right, where I'm now in a comfortable haven, where I'm happy where I am from a theological standpoint. I'm happy where I am from just from a worldview standpoint. There aren't too many issues out there that really scare me anymore. I'm good. And I think I want a lot of people to have that kind of freedom, especially in the Black community, because they're stuck in this mindset of I'm just this victim. And it's just, they're really mental slaves. It's a terrible, terrible thing. Isn't that Up From Slavery? Who wrote that book? That was Booker T. Washington. He wrote that book, Up From Slavery. And I think people still have that mental chains on themselves that prevent them from being up from slavery in the mental capacity. And so, to your point, I think having that foundation of your parents helped out a lot. My parents helped me out too, but they're kind of a Democrat. But we never really talked politics. They never told me who to vote for. But my high school told me why I should vote or what values I should vote for, which is really, really important, which actually carried into my college years. So, so that's awesome, Kyra. So I think we covered a lot here. Don't have any more questions on the chat room. Is there anything else you want to talk about? You want to cover at all tonight?
No, I think that's it. I hope Fauci goes to prison.
Wow. You know, did you see that Chelsea Clinton meme that she reposted?
Yeah, I mean, Hillary. I guess Hillary didn't help Fauci delete his emails.
Yeah, and it's funny watching them do the Spin City kind of thing on that. You know.
Yeah. Sorry, I shouldn't be laughing, but it's kind of funny when you think about how corrupt these politicians are, and they're like trying to lecture us on how to live, but yet they can't even keep their scandals straight. It's just like craziness, man. But I hope Fauci.
Yeah. I'll be remiss if I don't mention LeBron. I was so happy last night. I think I sent you the score at halftime. They were up by like 30 or something. I was so excited, but I was like, oh no, they were coming back toward the end. So I was like, well, I didn't text you anymore because I was afraid they were going to lose. But I was like jumping around, happy.
Yeah, knock on wood. Don't want to jinx it.
Yeah. So, but cool. And I'm serious about that show. We can maybe sit down, and talk, and whatever. We can do that if you like. It could be monthly, it could be whatever you want it to be. So talk about the format, but whatever platform you want to be on. And you can plug your own stuff too, obviously. So, and if there's any super chats, you can keep that money too. So that would be yours. So yeah, so that's cool. So thank you so much, Kyra. I know this was a difficult thing. How do you feel this went?
Well, if people from my former sorority are talking, I told you so. No, leave me alone and let me live, okay? Follow requests and stop sending me Facebook friend requests because I won't answer. And stop texting me because new phone who dis, okay? Bye.
Well, soon enough you're going to be big enough you're going to need to have a personal assistant to keep track of everything. So that's where you're headed right now. So I truly believe that. So anyway, I'm sorry, go ahead.
All I said was, I don't know, man. We'll see. There's a lot of talented conservatives out there, man.
But there's not enough of them. The market's wanting that. So, and like one person said, I'm being shadow banned. They like my last few videos. It's going to be a progression thing. I'm working on other formats too, and how to get that to work into other. I'm working on a whole self-sufficient type of paradigm, but it's going to take a few months to get that set up. So, but eventually, because YouTube, you can't count on YouTube to be there for you all the time. So, even though right now it's where the money is at. It's where if you can get the likes and the clicks, whatever. But it's where it's at right now. But it's not going to be there 6 months from now. I can't be.
So guess who's back on YouTube?
Who?
Crowder.
Crowder's back. Practically lawyers, man.
Yeah, Crowder, favorite.
He had them dead to rights, man. He had them dead to rights.
Yeah, he's my freaking spirit animal. That man is a god. Okay, love him. And the fact that Commie YouTube was trying to take down his what is it?
It was this I'm sorry video, or is it the one about he basically commented. He basically said the thing that person used about himself.
It's like when he goes to
you change my mind?
Yes. Commie YouTube was deleting some of his change my minds, and I've never been more angry in my life because I love Crowder, and those are my favorite things in the entire world. He's my spirit animal, and that ticks me off. But they're trying to limit free speech.
The last one he did was good, man. He turned one person. He turned 180. He was like, he came in there thinking, I think it was about gun. I think it was about guns. And he said, they walked through it, and then the guy was at the end was like, wow, I agree with you. It was like, and that's what they don't want. They don't want people talking, man. That's what Jordan Peterson was saying. He's like, they don't want people talking because, well, he didn't say that, but I'm referring. Talking is that's the communication of, I think it's two things: communication And I think one more thing we do to get our words across. And by force, I believe. Communication and by force. And he said, so communication is how we can come together so we can kind of get these ideas out there so we can not fight each other. And so, those speak your minds or change my minds are really, really, really powerful. Really powerful. Because he's really like trying to play the devil's advocate. He's really trying to, listen, and it's awesome. So, go ahead. I'm sorry.
He spends a lot of time researching for those debates. Do you know how much time he spends, like, with that huge freaking binder? Like, man, Crowder's a god. I love Crowder. And his shows are the best. He did one. He did one, which is gonna take off a lot of liberals. But he did one of like Cultural Appropriation Month, and this month was Japan. So it was really cool to watch. He's so silly.
Yeah. Oh, the one I watched was a year ago. He did the one go look at I'm Sorry. He talks about he apologizes on everything he did wrong with that previous year, or whatever, and he just trolls the living mess out of everyone. It's so hysterical. It is so hysterical. It's called I'm Sorry. It's about an hour long. It's amazing. I was cracking up now.
Yeah, I really want to hear him speak live someday. Like, I want to see him in person. If I don't see Crowder in person soon, I'm going to be really upset. Like, I would love for him to speak at like a Turning Point event or something. That would be really cool, to be honest.
Yeah, me too. In fact, that'd be nice. That'd be really nice. So, in fact, I'm going to be coming through New Mexico sometime maybe this year. I told my wife and the family would be. Well, I'll ask you off camera where you're at, but we may, on the way to Arizona, may swing by there, so we'll see. Maybe Crowder will be in town. So, anyway, all right, cool. So I'll get one more comment here, and then this will probably be it. So that's a good question. Let's do that. What's next week's topic? Did you want to do this again next week? Are you free next week?
Yeah, I'm free next week. I don't know what we're gonna do, but
yeah, we kind of fly by the seat of our pants here, A-Team. In the beginning, I had this idea of this whole sketch kind of comedy kind of thing, but it didn't kind of work out that way. Right now, it's just a free-flowing sort of ideas, interchange. But off the topics of what I typically talk about on the channel, right? Because I'm so dedicated on like NBA and wokeness, whatever. It seems kind of stale to have all that all the time. It's good to have this, to have some sort of outlet of other things that's going on around the world, because there's so much stuff to talk about that's interesting and entertaining, and important, by the way. So, all right. So with that, unless you have anything else, I'm going to ask you about yourself and where people can find you. And I'm going to get my brand new, which you already saw, panel here of all your contact information. So tell people where they can find you.
All right, lit. Sorry, also, we just want to apologize to everyone real quick. Thanks for sticking out with me. I know my freaking Wi-Fi was being annoying, and I had to move to separate locations in my house. Thank you, people, for watching. Anyway, so you can find me on YouTube. My YouTube channel is Kyra Bowlby, or Random K Girl, wherever the link is. You can also add me on Telegram for exclusive content.
Good.
Thank you. My Telegram is at Kyra Marion Carol Bowlby. And then my Instagram account, I have 2 Instagram accounts because commie Instagram is annoying. And they keep giving me, they keep flagging my COVID-19 post with find more information about vaccines. Okay, I'm fully vaccinated now, so you can leave me alone so that I can go to Israel. Anyway, my Instagram accounts, if you guys want to follow me on there, the Instagram accounts are at Kyra Marion Carol Bowlby, and then my other Instagram account is at Real Kyra Bowlby, and then my Facebook account, if you a real one, is Kyra Bowlby, but my public Facebook account, like my political one, is at Kyra Marion Carol Bowlby. So go like on there. You'll get more content about videos. I also have a blog where I occasionally post blog posts on. My Parlor is at Kyra Bowlby. I post all of my blog posts on there, on Telegram, on Parlor, on Snapchat, all those things. So if you want to really really read my blog, definitely make sure you add me on Telegram at Kyra Marion Carol Bowlby, because then you'll get exclusive content and you'll like get voice memos from me. You'll get videos. You'll get text posts from me, and you'll really find out when my next blog posts come out. So yeah, make sure you read my blog, because Facebook freaking blocked me from posting blog posts on there because they think I'm spreading false information and hateful content. They flagged me for hate speech. So yeah, so make sure you add me on Telegram and Parler blog posts. But my Wix site, so it's like a blog, but it's Kyra Marion Carol Bowlby Wix site. Just like look up Wix site Kyra Bowlby on Google and you'll find me. But yeah, I really want more people to read my blogs, because I'm working really hard on a blog post right now about Jordan Peterson and why I love him and why I'm his biggest fan. And I really want people to read it. So make sure you add me on Telegram.
Well, maybe we can talk about that next week or whatever. I'd like to get.
Oh my gosh. Yes. I would love that.
Maybe talk about that. Because I've really been getting into him. And my wife really was the one who really got on him early, before I met you. And she really is a big fan of his. But when I was watching his videos, I'm kind of understanding him more, which is kind of scary. Either I'm getting smarter or I don't know, there's some sort of something going on there, because maybe he's speaking down to my level now more, but I just couldn't really feel where he was going with some of the things he was saying. It was just foreign in the concepts. But I think I'm familiar with those concepts now. I'm looking into them more. So I'm enjoying his content more because I can understand where he's coming from, or semi-understand it. So that would be great. He's phenomenal, especially Angel Kyra. We're supposed to do not debate, but we're supposed to do something with him on gun control laws. Maybe we can get that set up as well. But he did something on Jordan Peterson in his spiritual walk. He's like, I saw one video of Jordan Peterson where he was literally crying about him being on the street and have people thanking him for the appreciation of what he's meant for them, reading their book and changing their lives. And I was like, my gosh, this guy is amazing. And there's no way you can look at Jordan Peterson after that video and look at him the same way again. You can't call him the things you call him before. It's just ridiculous. It's just stupid. And the stuff on your tweets, your posts, your blog posts, everything, it is totally benign. Totally benign. And I don't know where they get off saying that you're hate speech. That's ridiculous.
How am I hateful?
Stupid.
I'm like a ray of sunshine. I don't understand.
Right? Hello?
Like, what the heck? But yes, next week we should definitely talk about Jordan Peterson. We should do an entire live stream just talking about Jordan. I'm up for it. I will do it. Straight up.
Let's do that. Let's do that. Maybe doing 2 parts, because he's deep.
He's incredible, and everyone should read his books. His books right now are so good that they're literally, I think they're still on the bestsellers list.
Let me ask you a question. I'll cut you off here. If I'm a first timer, what would be a book for me to start off reading? I'm gonna pick it up tonight.
A book
by him.
By Jordan.
Entry level.
Do you have 12 Rules for Life?
No, I don't have any books by him. My wife doesn't have any books by him either.
Wait. I have both of his books.
I'm gonna Kindle it though. I'm gonna Kindle it and I'll start reading it.
I have both of his books. He wrote a book in the 1990s called Maps of Meaning, and that book's like $73. So I told my parents, I was like, for Christmas, just buy me Jordan Peterson stuff. And so you should read this book, 12 Rules for Life. Changed my life. I'm reading it right now. It's incredible.
I'll do that. I'll get that tonight.
And then you should also get his book, Beyond Order, 12 More Rules for Life. So then you can read that. And then straight up after you read that book, hop right into the second one. There's your recommendation. You're welcome. Your life is about to be changed.
Yeah, I'm gonna get tonight. So I'll start the first chapter after this. So.
Yes.
So cool. And I'll let you know. I'll give you a status on Instagram.
Oh my gosh. Yes, please. There have been so many people who've been reaching out to me lately saying, you got me into Jordan Peterson. And that is the biggest compliment I've ever gotten in my life. So let me know how that goes, because I'm really I will talk about Jordan for 5 hours. He's the best. But yeah, let me know progress on that.
I will. I'll absolutely do that. Okay. Well, cool. Well, that's going to be it. We did this for about an hour and 47 minutes. And I'm going to keep her on the screen here. I'm not going to take her off. So everyone, thank you so much for coming on this show. People here are really faithful. They give encouraging. I do comments, and I'm just really encouraged by the comments that I get. I got one challenge. Someone challenged me to a debate. I'll cover that next week maybe. I said I'll do it, and I sent you the email.
I will moderate.
Yeah. So I don't think he's going to do it. But anyway, I mean, the point is, I'm really encouraged by the stuff we get on this channel, and just makes me happy, because I feel, this outlet for me helps me in my mental health, because researching this stuff all the time, you get down on it, right? I mean, it's like you got to go to MSNBC, you got to go to CNN sometimes, you got to watch videos that you don't want to see, you got to pull up Hillary Clinton videos and outtakes, whatever. And he's like, oh my gosh. And so it wears on you. It wears on you because you're doing it all the time. But at the same time, those comments of people, you're doing a great job, you're helping me, even if it's just small, it really, really helps out a lot. So I really appreciate that, everybody.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So I'm sure you feel the same way.
For sure.
And so check out her channel. Check out her last 2 videos. They're really good about Israel. It'll cover a lot of good bases for you, which understand that, and that the people who are conservatives who love Israel don't hate Palestinians. We don't. We love Palestinians. That's why we're angry, because they're not treated very well, because Hamas and Hezbollah and these organizations are taking advantage of them and exploiting them. I mean, hello. So do you feel that way as well? I mean, I don't speak for you, but I mean, I'm sure you do.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
And also the Palestinian government, too, is taking advantage of them. It's not Israel that is oppressing the Palestinians. It's the Palestinian Authority, Hamas, and Hezbollah. So let's get that straight. We as conservatives stand for Palestinian human rights. We want Palestinians to live in peace, and we want Israelis to live in peace. Period.
And there you have it. That's the mic drop. And with that, you got the last word on that. And so everyone else, I want to thank you so much. As I pull my banner up for the last closing banner. I didn't give me a person to do this for me. I need a producer. So that, everyone, I love you guys to death, and I will see you guys, and we will see you guys next time.